Rick Ross just crossed a line so dark, so profoundly disturbing, that the entire hip-hop community should be talking about it right now, and yet almost nobody is. What you are about to hear about the Mahogany Caskets video is not just another diss track moment or another chapter in a tired rivalry. This is a grandfather in his 50s simulating the lifeless body of his rival lying under a white sheet, surrounded by yellow crime scene tape, and broadcasting it to millions of people like it is entertainment. The figure on that floor is meant to be 50 Cent. And when I tell you the details are more unsettling than anything these two have done in 20 years of warfare, I need you to sit with that for a second. Because what Rick Ross did in that video might be the single most tasteless escalation in the history of rap beef, and I am not exaggerating when I say that. But before I unpack why this is so much worse than people realize, I need to take you back to where all of this started. Because understanding the full depth of this feud is the only way to understand why this new video crosses a boundary that should never have been crossed. Let me break this down, because the layers here go deeper than anybody in the commentary space is currently covering. Rick Ross and 50 Cent have been at each other's throats for nearly 20 years. Let that sink in for a moment. 2 decades. That is almost the entire span of LeBron James' career. These are men pushing 50 with families, businesses, generational wealth, and legacies that most artists could only dream of building. And yet, in the year 2026, Rick Ross is still making videos where he dresses up a body double to look like 50 Cent lying dead on the ground. He raps the line, "Forget 50 Cent, and they never walk away," that go for many men, while the camera pans across what appears to be a crime scene. White sheet draped over the figure. Yellow tape cordoning off the area. Blood visible on the floor. The entire image designed to simulate a murder scene with 50 Cent as the victim. Now, I am not going to pretend like I hate the song, because the production on Mahogany Caskets is genuinely strong. The Ron Nephew Feemster beat is layered, the bass hits clean, and the Set in Stone album has some solid work across the board. Rick Ross has always had an ear for luxurious, cinematic production, and this track is no exception. But that visual? That visual is something else entirely. And I need to ask the question that nobody else seems to be asking. If 2 rappers in their 20s released a video in 2026 simulating the murder of a rival, putting them on the floor, covering them with a sheet, and surrounding them with crime scene tape, people would absolutely lose their minds. They would call it reckless. They would say these young men do not value life. They would demand accountability from every platform, every label, every media outlet. So why are we giving veteran artists a pass for the exact same imagery? Why is Rick Ross not facing the same scrutiny that a younger artist would face? That double standard is the first problem here, and it is a big one. Here is where it gets even more complicated, because this beef did not come out of nowhere. The history between 50 Cent and Rick Ross is one of the most personal, most destructive rivalries hip-hop has ever witnessed, and both men have crossed lines that would end most human relationships permanently. It started back in 2008 at the BET Awards, where Rick Ross apparently did not like the way 50 Cent looked at him. That sounds minor on the surface, but in the world these men operate in, a look can be a declaration of war. By January of 2009, Rick Ross dropped Mafia music, taking shots at 50 Cent's personal life and setting the match that would burn for the next 17 years. He responded within days with Officer Ricky, a track and accompanying campaign designed to dismantle Rick Ross' entire street persona by exposing his past as a correctional officer. Now, in today's social media landscape, that reveal would have been absolutely brutal. Every photo, every record, every interview would have been dragged across the timeline nonstop. Rick Ross would have faced the kind of pressure that breaks careers and forces people into hiding. And Rick Ross has since addressed it, saying he was told to take the position, that he only worked for a short period, that he never locked anybody up. But the stain of that exposure stuck to him like permanent ink. He made sure of it. He turned Officer Ricky into a full-scale campaign, a running joke that followed Rick Ross for years and became the foundation of every argument against his authenticity. But here is what really makes my stomach turn about this entire feud, and I need you to really listen to this part. Both men dragged family members into the crossfire, and neither one seems to have lost a moment of sleep over it. He flew out Tia Kemp, the mother of Rick Ross' son, and conducted a full interview with her designed to humiliate Rick Ross on a personal level. He took her shopping. He brought her to Floyd Mayweather House. He turned the mother of his rival child into a public spectacle, a walking punchline, all to score points in a rap beef. And if that was not enough, he later leaked a sex tape involving Lastonia Leviston, another woman who shares a child with Rick Ross. He dubbed his own voice over the footage, adding commentary like it was a comedy sketch, like it was content for his entertainment channel. That decision cost him $7 million in damages and contributed to him filing for bankruptcy. $7 million, and he still did not stop. He kept going. He kept mocking. He kept finding new angles to attack Rick Ross from, because that is what 50 Cent does. He does not let go. He does not forgive. He does not forget. He turns every slight into a lifelong campaign of public humiliation. Rick Ross was not innocent in this either, and I want to be clear about that because this is not a one-sided story. Rick Ross photoshopped 50 Cent's son face onto a monkey body. A child. He took an innocent kid and turned him into a meme to get back at his father. And then there is the story Rick Ross tells with apparent pride about taking 50 Cent's youngest son, the one he calls Bruce Leroy, fishing. He says he saw the boy walking around on Star Island, invited him to the back of his property, put bread on a fishing pole, and watched him catch his first fish. And Rick Ross tells this story in interviews with a smile, like it is a wholesome moment, like it is a beautiful memory. But think about the context for a second. This is a man your father is publicly feuding with, a man who has tried to destroy your father's career and reputation, a man who has leaked sex tapes and conducted interviews with your family members, and he is taking you fishing and talking about it on camera. That is not heartwarming. That is a power move disguised as kindness. It is designed to get under 50 Cent's skin, to say, I have access to your child, I can be around your family, and there is nothing you can do about it. Once the children get dragged into grown men drama, the entire situation becomes something darker than music. It becomes psychological warfare with kids in the blast radius. His own son has had a difficult road, and that is not speculation, that is public record. His family issues have played out in front of the world. He has disrespected his son mother online, and her dating life has stayed in the spotlight as fodder for commentary. When Rick Ross spoke about 50 Cent's son in interviews, my reaction was simple and immediate. Where's the sympathy for the children? Nobody knows how they feel behind closed doors. Nobody is checking on them. Nobody is asking whether they're okay. The adults are too busy trading insults about two-bedroom apartments and album sales to notice that children are standing in the splash zone of every single shot they fire, absorbing damage they never signed up for. And the drama did not stay contained between just 50 Cent and Rick Ross either. It spread like wildfire. The BET Awards saw a confrontation break out where Gunplay, who is signed to Rick Ross' MMG label, had his chain reportedly taken by members of his entourage. That moment added another physical layer to an already complex and volatile feud. Then Rick Ross brought T.I. into the Mahogany Caskets collaboration, another artist who has clashed with 50 Cent for years. T.I. family got dragged into the online pile-on when the situation escalated. T.I. wife Tiny became fair game when he started cracking jokes online and posting pictures about her. One post landed, everybody jumped in, and the drama spread far beyond the two names at the center of it. That is the wild part about the 50 Cent and Rick Ross rivalry. It is not contained. It is not private. It infects everyone around them. The people standing close to these two giants catch the fallout while the stars keep moving like nothing happened, like the collateral damage is just the cost of doing business. Now let me address what 50 Cent did in response to all of this, because his counterattack was surgical in its simplicity and devastating in its precision. After Rick Ross released Set in Stone and the early sales numbers started circulating online, 50 Cent posted on Instagram with his signature casual brutality. He wrote, I just saw your record sales. Laugh out loud. 2000. What the? And he left it right there for the internet to absorb, knowing exactly what would happen next. That response went straight for Rick Ross album numbers and turned the whole exchange into another public scoreboard where he gets to play the reigning champion. The actual projection was around 26,000 units, which is significantly more than he claimed, but still less than Rick Ross's previous album, which moved about 34,000 units in its first week back in 2021. So he exaggerated the number for effect, but the point still landed with force. And when sales entered the conversation, he knows exactly where to aim, because he was once one of rap's biggest commercial forces. The massacre reportedly moved around 1 million copies in its first week. Get Rich or Die Tryin' became a cultural earthquake that shifted the entire landscape of hip-hop. Then came the famous sales battle with Kanye West, where Kanye eventually outsold him in a showdown that made first-week numbers feel like a championship fight between titans. He still uses that history whenever he wants to embarrass somebody over weak sales today, and he always will, because that is his weapon of choice. But let me be honest about something that people do not want to hear. As much as people respect 50 Cent and his commercial legacy, I do not believe he would automatically put up massive first-week numbers with a new album in today's landscape. His name carries serious weight, no question about that. But the music business has fundamentally changed in ways that benefit nobody from the old model. Jay had recently sparked a conversation by asking whether 50 Cent could sell out Yankee Stadium for 3 nights like Jay-Z did. Some people believe he absolutely could. Others are saying there is no chance in hell. That is the real debate right now. Does 50 Cent still have enough power to move new music at a major level? Or is his strongest lane now touring, television production, and business ventures? And on the flip side, even if Rick Ross is no longer putting up massive sales numbers, can fans still appreciate the bars, the production, and the commanding presence he brings to every track he touches? These are legitimate questions, and they deserve honest answers instead of Instagram memes and comment section clowning. But here is where I need to stop the comedy and get serious for a moment, because there is something underneath all of this that matters more than album sales or YouTube reactions. Rick Ross and 50 Cent are 2 black men who came from rough neighborhoods, survived environments that destroy most people, and achieved far more than anybody expected them to. They built careers from nothing. They created businesses that employ people. They turned survival into generational success and became symbols of what is possible when talent meets relentless drive. Rick Ross is already a grandfather. 50 Cent has built an empire that spans television, liquor, publishing, and real estate. With everything they have accomplished, with every door they have opened for people coming behind them, it becomes harder and harder to take either man seriously when this is how they choose to present themselves publicly. Showing a figure meant to be 50 Cent lying on the ground covered in blood takes the feud beyond regular rap shots and into something much darker. At this stage of their lives, the drama should feel clever, not corny. It should give the public something fresh and meaningful to debate, not a simulated crime scene that looks like it belongs in a low-budget horror film. I understand why Rick Ross could be frustrated. Let me be fair to him for a moment. Imagine somebody disrespecting your name, clowning you at every opportunity, trying to make you look small every single chance they get, posting about your album sales, mocking your past, turning your life into a running joke for social media engagement. Once you get an opening, of course you're going to fire back. Nobody is saying 50 Cent is innocent in this, because he is absolutely not. Both men have crossed lines that should have been uncrossable. Both men have moved wrong at different points throughout this 2-decade war. But after 20 years, the back and forth is starting to feel tired in a way that is hard to ignore. How much do people actually care about a 50 Cent and Rick Ross exchange anymore? I know I am covering it, but the real question is whether the conflict still feels exciting or whether everybody is just watching out of habit, out of obligation, out of nostalgia for a time when rap beef actually meant something culturally. Gunplay recently said he would appear on Tony Yayo and Uncle Murder Show, which could have created a funny, honest, memorable conversation about the history of this feud. Instead, the response felt more like, I know you would come over here because you have nothing going on. They turned a potential hip-hop moment into another cheap shot, another opportunity to demean instead of dialogue. That makes me wonder whether anybody in hip-hop is allowed to grow up. When artists mature, make business deals, or move differently, people criticize them for that too. It feels like they get attacked for staying in drama and then mocked when they try to leave it behind. There is no winning. There is no path forward that the culture rewards. You are either a clown for fighting or a sellout for stopping. That is a deeply unhealthy dynamic, and it is one that the commentary class rarely addresses. The bigger question is how many artists use their position to set a stronger example for others coming up behind them. That does not erase what Rick Ross has done for people from his city or those who looked up to him as a symbol of success. He has represented for plenty of people. He has put on for his community. But moments like the Mahogany Caskets video make the message look mixed, because you cannot claim to be a leader and a boss while simultaneously simulating the murder of your rival on camera. It sends conflicting signals to everyone watching. Generally speaking, people look at these two and see grown men acting like kids who never learned to walk away. It is one thing to explain why you do not like somebody and keep the situation honest. You could say, listen, at one point this man violated me, so we will never speak again, but I am going to stay my course, build my empire, and do what I am doing without mentioning his name again. That would sound like grown man business. That would sound like wisdom. Instead, they keep arguing about a 2-bedroom apartment and 2,000 album sales, as if either one of them is still moving records like the old days. Nobody is selling music the same way anymore, and the industry probably needs an entirely new system for measuring success. But even that gets tricky, because if they change the rules again, streaming could create inflated numbers that make everybody look bigger than they actually are. I also remembered something that stuck with me from the research. Rick Ross once walked up to Fat Joe and Jadakiss and brought up 50 Cent without either of them asking. He just volunteered the name into a conversation that had nothing to do with the feud. That moment showed how easily 50 Cent name enters the room, even when nobody invited it. Joe and Jadakiss had their own issues with 50 Cent in the past, but they eventually managed to settle those problems and move forward. Their situation felt different because of the New York connection, the shared history, and the level of respect surrounding the city when it was finally time to make peace. Rick Ross was also asked whether he would ever squash his beef with 50 Cent publicly. But let me keep it real with you. Rick Ross seems ready to go the extra mile whenever there is another chance to clown 50 Cent, to poke at him, to find a new creative way to get under his skin. Do people seriously believe 50 Cent lives in some tiny 2-bedroom apartment? And even if he does, why does that matter? He does not need a giant mansion to prove something after already living that lifestyle for decades and building multiple successful businesses. That does not mean 50 Cent is innocent either, because both men have crossed lines. But the 2-bedroom apartment jokes and the sales mockery are not the real issue here. The real issue is the Mahogany Caskets video and what it represents about how far this has gone. Rick Ross delivered the line about forgetting 50 Cent and they never walk away, referencing Many Men, which is 50 Cent's own song about surviving being shot 9 times and living to tell about it. He took 50 Cent's most vulnerable, most deeply personal moment, the night bullets tore through his body, and he somehow survived, and he turned it into a punchline with a simulated corpse on the floor. That is not battle rap. That is not competitive artistry. That is a man trying to symbolically kill his rival on camera and calling it entertainment. He used 50 Cent's survival story, the foundation of his entire mythology, as ammunition for a visual gag. Think about how twisted that is for a second. The man survived 9 gunshot wounds, built a career from that survival, and now another rapper is staging his death in a music video for views and streaming numbers. And the fact that so few people are publicly calling Rick Ross out for this tells me everything I need to know about how desensitized we have become to this kind of imagery when it comes from certain artists with certain pedigrees. If a younger rapper did this, the conversation would be completely different. The takes would be completely different. The outrage would be loud, sustained, and amplified across every platform. So here is where I land on all of this, and I want to be completely clear. I like Rick Ross' album. I like Mahogany Caskets from the production to the final bars. Rick Ross still has a commanding voice and a luxurious aesthetic that few artists can replicate. But that visual still feels wild to me, and I cannot shake it. Showing a figure meant to be 50 Cent lying there like that takes this feud beyond regular rap shots and into territory that should make everybody uncomfortable, regardless of which side they are on. And 50 Cent laughing at the album numbers was a sharp response, but sales are not the whole story anymore. As much as people respect 50 Cent, the music business has changed, and neither one of these men is moving records the way they used to back when this feud actually felt like it mattered culturally. Now I need to hear from you, because this conversation should not end with my take. Tell me where you land on this, because I genuinely want to know. Did Rick Ross take that video too far? Was the simulated corpse of 50 Cent a legitimate artistic statement or a clear crossing of the line that should not be celebrated or defended? And what about 50 Cent mocking the album sales? Was that fair game or just another cheap shot in a feud that should have ended years ago? Drop your honest take in the comments, because this conversation needs to happen out in the open instead of being swept under the rug while everyone moves on to the next trending topic. And if you think this beef is far from over, trust me, you are not wrong. I am already tracking the next development, and when it drops, you are going to want to be here for the full breakdown. Hit subscribe, turn on notifications so you never miss the next story, and do not go anywhere, because the next chapter of this saga is coming faster than anybody expects. Until next time, stay sharp, stay critical, and stay informed.